The year was 2157. The research vessel UES Pathfinder drifted slowly through the rings of Saturn. Captain Daniel Clark stood on the bridge, hands clasped behind his back as he gazed at the magnificent view. Ice particles sparkled like diamonds against the black of space. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Officer Kyle Mitchell from his station. His fingers moved quickly across the screen. "There's an object moving against the ring current. Definitely not natural." Daniel moved closer. "Show me." The main screen changed to display a magnified view of something metallic reflecting the distant sunlight. It tumbled slowly, leaving a trail of debris. "It's a ship," said Lisa Rodriguez, the chief science officer. She adjusted her glasses as she studied the readings. "And it's not one of ours." The bridge fell silent. Humanity had yet to make official contact with alien life. There had been signals, hints, but never a confirmed encounter. "Life signs?" Daniel asked, keeping his voice steady despite his racing heart. Lisa tapped more commands. 1. Very weak. Daniel needed only seconds to make his decision. "Prepare a rescue team. Let's bring them aboard." Security Chief Maria Gonzalez frowned. "Sir, protocol for first contact is to show who we are," Daniel finished. "And we are not the kind of people who let someone die when we can help." 4 hours later, the alien lay unconscious in the medical bay. It looked somewhat like a bird, with feathered limbs and a beaked face, though its body structure was humanoid. The medical team worked carefully around the creature, studying its strange anatomy. "Amazing," Dr. Ben Harris whispered. "Its cellular structure is unlike anything I've seen, but the wounds are healing well." Lisa stood nearby, recording everything. "Any idea what caused the damage to the ship?" "Weapons fire," Maria said from the doorway. "I examined the hull. Something cut through it like it was paper." The alien's eyes suddenly opened, 3 of them bright yellow with vertical pupils. It saw the humans and let out a shrill cry, trying to push itself off the table despite its injuries. "It's okay," Lisa said, stepping forward with her hands raised. "We're not going to hurt you." The alien's eyes darted between them, its breathing, fast and shallow. "It's terrified," Ben said. "Heart rate is off the charts." Daniel entered the room and approached slowly. "Can you understand us?" he asked. The alien made clicking sounds with its beak, then reached for a device attached to its arm. It tapped something, and a mechanical voice came out. "Danger. Must hide." The translation was rough, but clear enough. "You're safe here," Daniel said. "We found your ship damaged. We brought you aboard to help." The alien shook its head frantically. "Not safe. Never safe. The cracks will come." "Cracks?" Lisa asked, recording the word. "Who are the cracks?" The aliens. 3 eyes blinked in sequence. "Hunters, predators. They consume all." Over the next few days, as the alien recovered, they learned more. Its name was Kelnar, from a species called the Avari. They were peaceful explorers who had been running for generations from the cracks, massive reptilian creatures who saw the galaxy as their hunting ground. In the ship's conference room, the command crew gathered to hear Kelnar's story. The alien's translator had been improved by the engineering team, allowing for better communication. "The cracks believe they are the ultimate predators," Kelnar explained. "They have destroyed 12 known civilizations. They do not just conquer, they harvest. They take what they want and consume the rest." Jack Powell, the communications officer, leaned forward. "And they were chasing you specifically?" "Yes. I am a historian. I carry the records of many worlds the cracks have destroyed, knowledge they wish to erase." Kelnar's feathers flattened against its body. "I thought I had escaped them in this remote system." "How advanced is their technology?" asked Lisa. "Beyond yours, beyond mine. They have weapons grown, not built, ships that live and heal." Daniel exchanged troubled looks with his officers. "Do they know about Earth?" Kelnar's silence was answer enough. "We should report this immediately," Maria said. "Earth needs to prepare." "Prepare for what?" Jack asked. "If these cracks are as advanced as Kelnar says, what chance do we have?" "We always have a chance," Daniel replied firmly. "Humanity has faced extinction before. We're still here. Kelnar studied Daniel with curiosity. Your species. You are not afraid? We're terrified, Lisa said with a small smile. But that doesn't mean we'll give up. The alien seemed confused by this concept. As the Pathfinder changed course for Earth, Kelnar recovered enough to walk the corridors with an escort. The alien was fascinated by humans, watching their interactions with keen interest. Your species is strange, Kelnar told Lisa one day in the observation lounge. You are small, not strong, yet you act without fear. We've learned to live with fear, Lisa explained. On our world, we weren't the strongest creatures, but we survived anyway. How? By outlasting our enemies, by thinking differently, by working together. Kelnar's feathers rustled, their equivalent of a doubtful expression. The cracks do not tire, they do not stop. They have hunted my people across thousands of light years. Then maybe they've never met the right opponent, Daniel said, joining them. Earth has a long history of underdogs winning against the odds. The final day of their journey home, alarms blared throughout the ship. Jack's voice came over the intercom, tense and urgent. Captain to the bridge, we've detected a ship entering the system. Daniel arrived to find his crew staring at the screen, where a massive vessel had appeared near Neptune. It looked unlike any ship Daniel had seen, not constructed of metal but something that appeared organic with spines and ridges like a living creature. It's them, Kelnar whispered, feathers trembling. A crack scout ship. Have they seen us? Daniel asked. They wouldn't be here if they hadn't, Maria replied grimly. They must have been tracking Kelnar's ship. Daniel studied the alien vessel. It was changing course, moving with predatory grace toward the inner solar system, toward Earth. Send a message to Earth Defense Command, Daniel ordered. Priority 1, first contact scenario with hostile intent. It's too late, Kelnar said. The hunt has begun. I am sorry. By saving me, you have doomed your world. No one is doomed yet, Daniel said firmly. Humanity isn't easy prey. We've spent our entire history learning to survive. As the Pathfinder raced toward Earth, the crack ship followed at a leisurely pace. The confidence of a predator that knows its prey cannot escape. What the cracks didn't know was that humans had evolved not as the strongest predators, but as the most persistent. And persistence was about to become the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy. 6 months had passed since the UES Pathfinder returned to Earth with Kelnar. The world governments had listened to the aliens' warnings, though many doubted such a threat could exist. That doubt vanished on a Tuesday morning when the long-range sensors detected multiple objects entering the solar system. Admiral Eric Nelson stood in Earth Defense Command headquarters, watching as red dots appeared on the large screen. His weathered face showed no emotion, but his knuckles were white as he gripped the edge of the control panel. How many? He asked. 7 large vessels, sir, replied Lieutenant Greg Foster. Moving in formation, they'll reach Earth orbit in approximately 48 hours at current speed. Eric nodded. Activate the defense network, alert all ships, and get me President Wright. Around the world, people looked up at the sky with fear and wonder. News of the approaching alien fleet spread quickly, despite government attempts to prevent panic. In homes and public spaces, screens showed the same images, strange, organic-looking ships that resembled giant creatures more than vessels. At the United Nations Special Assembly, Kelnar addressed the world leaders. The ships you see are living. Weapons, the alien explained through its translator. The cracks grow them from specially bred creatures. They feel no pain, need no crew, and obey without question. How do we fight such things? Asked a representative from Japan. Kelnar's feathers drooped. In all my travels, I have never known a species to defeat the cracks in direct combat. A murmur of fear passed through the assembly. Then we'll be the first, said President Samantha Wright, standing tall despite her small frame. Humanity has faced extinction before. When the cracks fleet moved into position around Earth, they did not attack immediately. Instead, they sent a message. Every screen on the planet suddenly showed the image of a massive reptilian creature. It stood at least 9 feet tall with scales that gleamed like polished metal. Its eyes were yellow slits, and rows of sharp teeth filled its mouth. "I am Hunt Master Vexcor," the creature said in a deep, rumbling voice that had been translated to English. "Your world now belongs to the Crack's dominion. Surrender the Avari fugitive and accept your place as a harvested species, or face extinction." In the White House Situation Room, President Wright and her advisors watched the message with grim faces. "What does he mean by harvested species?" asked Defense Secretary Frank Monroe. "The Cracks consider less advanced civilizations as resources," Kelnar explained. The alien had been brought in as an advisor. "They take what they want: technology, knowledge, genetic material, even food." "Food?" someone whispered. "Can we negotiate with them?" asked Dr. Alan Foster, Earth's chief diplomat. Kelnar made a clicking sound that the humans had learned was a sign of negative emotion. "The Cracks respect only strength. They view compromise as weakness." President Wright stood up. "Then we show them strength. Admiral Nelson, is the fleet ready?" "As ready as we can be, Madam President," Eric replied. "But our technology is far behind theirs." "Sometimes it's not about technology," she said. "Sometimes it's about will." Dr. Foster was chosen to respond to the Crack's message. As the world watched, he stood before the camera, calm and dignified. "This is Earth's response to the Crack's dominion," he began. "We do not recognize your claim to our world. We will not surrender any guest who has sought our protection. We are prepared to defend ourselves." Vexcor's response came within minutes. The reptilian face appeared again, this time showing what might have been amusement. "Your species has courage," the Huntmaster said. "Unusual in prey, but courage without strength is merely the final defiance before death." The first attack came, without further warning. One of the Crack ships fired on the International Orbital Defense Station. The beam of energy that shot forth was like nothing humans had seen before. It seemed almost alive, changing direction mid-flight to avoid defensive measures. Inside the YI station, Commander Owen Baker watched the approaching weapon on his screens. He had seconds to decide. "Divert all power to the experimental shields," he ordered. "Sir, those shields haven't been fully tested," his second-in-command protested. "No time like the present," Owen said with a grim smile. The energy beam hit the shields, which flared bright blue. For a moment it seemed they would hold. Then alarms blared as systems began to overload. "Targeting systems online," reported the weapons officer. "We have a lock. Fire everything," Owen commanded. As the station began to break apart, it launched its full arsenal at the Crack's vessel. Most of the weapons were destroyed before they reached their target, but a few, the newest prototype missiles, made it through. They struck the alien ship, causing what looked like dark bruises to spread across its organic hull. The Crack's vessel shuddered. It didn't explode like a human ship would, but it listed to one side, clearly damaged. In his command ship, Vexcor watched with surprise as one of his vessels was wounded by the primitive weapons. He had expected the humans to die easily, like most species the Cracks encountered. Instead, they had managed to hurt one of his hunt pack. "Interesting," he murmured. "These creatures have teeth." He sent orders to his fleet to pull back to the edge of the solar system, not in retreat but to study this unexpected resistance. In thousands of cycles of hunting, the Cracks had learned one important rule: understand your prey before closing for the kill. On Earth, the destruction of the orbital station was met with grief and anger, but also, surprisingly, hope. The station had been destroyed, but it had hurt the enemy before dying. "They can be wounded," Admiral Nelson told the Emergency Council. "Which means they can be killed." President Wright nodded. "We need to learn everything we can about them. Their biology, their technology, their thinking." She turned to Kelnar. "You've observed them longer than anyone. Help us understand how they think, how they fight." The alien seemed amazed by the human's response to defeat. You still believe you can win? We have to, Lisa Rodriguez replied. She had been brought into the council due to her experience with Kelnar. Humanity doesn't give up. It's not in our nature. As the cracks studied humans from a distance, humans began to study the cracks with equal intensity. A team was formed, led by xenobiologist Dr. Nicole White, military strategist Colonel Ryan Murphy, and Kelnar. What they would discover would change the course of the war and the galaxy forever. Because while the cracks were physically superior predators, humans had evolved with something the cracks had never needed: endurance. And in the coming battle, endurance would prove to be the most deadly weapon of all. In the weeks that followed the first attack, Earth prepared for war like never before. Old enemies became allies against a common threat. Scientists worked day and night to understand their new opponent. And in a secure facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, a special team studied the cracks with the help of Kelnar. Dr. Nicole White bent over a 3D model of cracks biology, based on Kelnar's knowledge and scans from the brief battle. She pushed her red hair back from her face and pointed to the creature's dense muscle structure. "Look at this," she said to Colonel Ryan Murphy, who stood nearby. "Their muscles are nearly 3 times as dense as human tissue. No wonder they're so strong." Ryan nodded, his expression serious. "That explains the reports from the space station. The few survivors said the cracks' boarding party tore through metal doors like they were paper. But there's something else," Nicole said, adjusting the display. "Their metabolism runs incredibly hot. They burn energy at an amazing rate." Dr. Kevin Barnes, the cultural anthropologist assigned to the team, looked up from his notes. "That fits with what Kelnar has told us about their feeding habits. They consume huge amounts of protein after hunting." Kelnar clicked its beak in agreement. "The cracks must rest and feed after exertion. It is why they attack in waves, not all at once." Ryan's eyes lit up with sudden understanding. "So they have burst strength but poor endurance?" "Exactly," Nicole said. "They evolved as ambush predators, not pursuit hunters like humans did. This discovery changed everything. Humans couldn't match cracks' strength, but they might be able to outlast them." Admiral Nelson immediately began to implement new strategies based on this knowledge. Meanwhile, in orbit around Mars, Commander Susan Hayes led a daring mission. Her team of 12 Special Forces soldiers had been training for weeks for this moment. Their target, a small crack scout ship that had separated from the main fleet. "Remember the plan," Susan told her team as their stealth shuttle approached the alien vessel. "We get in, gather intel, and get out. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary." The boarding was easier than expected. The cracks, confident in their superiority, had minimal internal security. Susan's team moved silently through the organic corridors of the ship, placing sensors and taking samples. In a large chamber that seemed to be a command center, they saw their first live cracks up close. 3 of the massive reptilians moved around what looked like a living computer system, with pulsing tissues instead of screens. "They're even bigger than the videos showed," whispered Joe Carter, Susan's second in command. Susan nodded, taking careful recordings with her helmet camera. The cracks stood nearly 9 feet tall, with powerful bodies covered in natural armor plating. Their movements were quick and precise, but she noticed something interesting. They would move in bursts, then stay still for periods as if conserving energy. The mission went smoothly until they reached what appeared to be a laboratory. Inside, they found evidence of cracks experiments on other species. The sight made even the hardened soldiers pause in horror. "We need to free them," said Linda Reyes, the team medic, looking at the various alien species in containment units. "That's not the mission," Susan reminded her, though she felt the same way. As they were about to leave, one of the captive aliens saw them and made a loud noise, alerting a nearby cracks. The reptilian hunter turned, saw the humans, and let out a roaring call that echoed through the ship. "So much for stealth," Susan said. "Fall back to extraction point." The team ran through the corridors as alarm signals pulsed through the living walls of the ship. They soon heard the heavy footsteps of Crack's warriors in pursuit. At an intersection, Susan made a quick decision. Joe, take half the team and head for the shuttle. We'll create a diversion. Despite protests, Joe led 5 soldiers away while Susan and the others prepared an ambush. When the first Cracks warriors rounded the corner, the humans opened fire with weapons designed based on Kelnar's advice, sonic disruptors that targeted Cracks' hearing. The effect was immediate. The reptilians clutched at the sides of their heads, their movements becoming uncoordinated. Susan's team took advantage of the confusion to retreat, staying just ahead of their pursuers. By the time they reached the shuttle bay, Susan's team was down to 4. They had lost 2 soldiers to Cracks' claws, but they had learned something crucial. The aliens tired quickly in sustained combat. "They're fast and strong," Susan reported to Admiral Nelson after their return. "But after about 10 minutes of chase, they were slowing down. We could outrun them even though they're faster in a sprint." This information, combined with the data they had gathered, gave Earth its first real hope. Humans might not win through strength, but they could win through endurance. Back on Earth, the first captured Cracks technology was studied intensively. Chief Engineer Paul Johnson made a breakthrough with the sonic weapons after analyzing samples from the mission. "Their hearing is much more sensitive than ours," he explained in a briefing. "It's part of what makes them such effective hunters. But it's also a weakness we can exploit." President Wright authorized Operation Sunrise, a bold new strategy based on human endurance. Instead of trying to match Cracks' strength, human forces would fight in rotating shifts, wearing down the aliens through continuous engagement. Admiral Nelson put it simply: "They're sprinters, we're marathon runners, and this war is going to be a marathon." When the Cracks launched their next attack targeting a military base in Australia, they expected another easy victory. What they found instead was an enemy that refused to tire. As one group of defenders fell back, another took their place. The battle that should have lasted hours stretched into days. Huntmaster Vexcor watched from orbit, growing increasingly confused by human tactics. The Cracks had always relied on overwhelming force and fear to subdue other species. But these humans did not break. When knocked down, they got back up. When outmatched, they retreated only to return later. "They fight like no prey we have encountered," he told his lieutenants. "They know they cannot win through strength, yet they continue to resist." One of his officers suggested simply destroying the planet from orbit, but Vexicor refused. "The High Command wants this species studied. There is something unusual about them." What Vexicor didn't understand, what no Cracks could understand, was that humans had evolved from prey into predators themselves, not the kind that relied on strength or speed, but on relentless pursuit. Humans were persistence hunters, wearing down faster prey through sheer determination. And now, for the first time in their long history of conquest, the Cracks would learn what it meant to be the hunted instead of the hunters. 3 months into the war, the Cracks launched what they believed would be their decisive attack. Their main fleet descended on the Pacific Defense Complex, Earth's largest military installation. Dozens of organic ships filled the sky, blocking out the sun as they moved into position. General Laura Peterson watched from the command center as the enemy approached. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and eyes that had seen many battles, though none like this. "They're coming in just as we predicted," said her tactical officer. "Full frontal assault." Laura nodded. "They still think this is about strength. Let's show them what humans are really made of." She activated the global command channel. "All units, Operation Sunrise is now active. Execute rotation protocols." Around the massive complex, defensive positions were fully staffed. But unlike traditional military formations, these forces were organized in waves. For every soldier on the front line, 3 more waited in reserve, ready to take over when the first became tired. The Cracks' attack began with a devastating bombardment. Energy weapons rained down, turning parts of the complex to ash. Then came the dropships, bringing hundreds of Cracks warriors directly into the battle. The first wave of human defenders met them head-on. The aliens, standing 9 feet tall and covered in natural armor, tore through the initial defenses with terrible efficiency. They moved with incredible speed, their claws and weapons leaving destruction in their wake. But after an hour of intense fighting, something unexpected happened. The human forces began to fall back in an orderly retreat. As they did, fresh troops moved forward to replace them. The Cracks, expecting their enemies to be defeated, instead found themselves facing soldiers who weren't tired or demoralized. Inside the Cracks' command ship, Vex Corps received reports of the strange human tactic. "They rotate their warriors?" he asked. His lieutenant. "In the middle of battle?" "Yes, Huntmaster. As soon as one group shows fatigue, another takes its place." Vex Corps hissed in frustration. He had studied countless species across the galaxy, and none had used such methods against the Cracks. Always before, they faced enemies who threw everything into a single desperate defense, which the Cracks would simply overwhelm with superior strength and numbers. "They are adapting to our methods," he realized, "learning our weaknesses." By the third day of continuous fighting, the effects became clear. Cracks warriors, though stronger and faster than humans, could not maintain their peak performance without rest and feeding. As the battle stretched on, their movements became slower, their reactions dulled, and the humans noticed. "Now, General," Peterson ordered, "deploy the sonic weapons." Across the battlefield, special units activated devices created by Chief Engineer Paul Johnson. These weapons emitted frequencies that humans could barely hear, but that caused intense pain to Cracks' sensitive hearing organs. The effect was immediate and devastating. Cracks warriors who had been slowing down now stumbled in confusion, clutching at their heads. The coordinated assault that had seemed unstoppable began to fracture. Human forces pressed the advantage, using their fresh reserves to push back against the disoriented aliens. For the first time, Cracks warriors began to retreat. On the fourth day, Vex Corps made an unprecedented decision. He ordered a full withdrawal from Earth's surface. The Cracks fleet pulled back to a safe distance, leaving behind damaged ships and equipment. In the command center, cheers erupted as the last crack ship left Earth's atmosphere. General Peterson allowed herself a small smile before turning to her staff. "This isn't over," she warned them. "They'll be back, and they'll have learned from this defeat." She was right. In the depths of space, Vex Corps sent an urgent message to the Cracks High Command. He reported the unexpected resistance and requested reinforcements. The response came swiftly. The Supreme Hunt Master Zargle himself would come with the largest fleet ever assembled by the Cracks. Meanwhile, humanity pressed its advantage. Admiral Nelson gathered Earth's space forces for a bold counterattack. With the knowledge gained from studying Cracks' biology and technology, human ships began targeting the aliens' supply lines. Smaller, faster vessels struck at Cracks' support ships, cutting off the resources their warriors desperately needed after extended combat. Jack Powell, now promoted to intelligence director after his time on the Pathfinder, coordinated these efforts. His teams had broken the basic patterns of Cracks' communication, allowing them to predict enemy movements. "They're bringing in reinforcements," he told President Wright during an emergency meeting. "A fleet larger than anything we've seen before." The president looked around the table at her advisors. "Options?" Dr. Nicole White spoke up. "We've made progress with the bioweapon. The Cracks ships are partially organic, grown rather than built. We've identified compounds that can disrupt their biological systems." "How long until it's ready?" Admiral Nelson asked. 2 weeks, maybe less," Nicole replied. "But delivery will be the challenge. We'd need to get it directly into their flagship." Commander Susan Hayes, recently promoted after her successful intelligence mission, stepped forward. "My team can do it. We've studied their ship designs. We know how to get in undetected." President Wright considered the plan. The risk was enormous, but so was the alternative: waiting for the full might of the Cracks Empire to descend on Earth. "Proceed," she ordered. "But in the meantime, we prepare as if this plan doesn't exist. Every person, every resource is dedicated to defense. Across the planet, humanity united as never before. Old conflicts were set aside as people worked together to build defenses, produce weapons, and train for the coming battle. Children helped plant victory gardens while elders shared wisdom from past wars. Scientists and engineers worked around, the clock to improve technology based on what they'd learned from cracks, designs. Dr. White's team made a critical discovery when studying the biological components of cracks technology. Their ships aren't just organic in structure, she explained to the War Council. They contain symbiotic organisms that regulate all systems. If we can target those organisms, we can disable entire vessels. As Earth prepared for the final confrontation, a philosophical shift occurred in human thinking. People began to see their species in a new light, not as the strongest or fastest, but as the most adaptable, the most determined. President Wright addressed the United Earth Council with words that would be remembered for generations. We did not evolve to be the strongest. We survived because we refused to give up. The cracks evolved to be feared, we evolved to endure, and today endurance will triumph over fear. As the massive cracks reinforcement fleet approached the solar system, humanity stood ready, not with the confidence of superior strength, but with the quiet determination of a species that had always found a way to survive against the odds. The massive cracks armada arrived in the solar system like a storm of living ships. Thousands of vessels, each larger than anything humans had built, moved in perfect hunting formations. At their center was the command ship of Supreme Hunt Master, Zargul, a living vessel the size of a small moon. Admiral Nelson looked at the tactical display and felt a chill despite years of military experience. The Cracks fleet outnumbered Earth's forces 10-1. Operation Long Hunt is now active, he announced to all commanders. You have your assignments. Remember, we're not trying to win through strength. Across the solar system, Earth's ships moved into position. But unlike traditional military tactics, they didn't form a defensive line. Instead, they spread out in small mobile groups, hiding among moons, asteroids, and planetary rings. When the Cracks advanced toward Earth, expecting to crush all resistance in a single overwhelming attack, they found no large forces waiting to oppose them. Instead, they encountered hit-and-run tactics unlike anything in their experience. A group of 5 human ships would appear, strike at a Cracks vessel's weak points, then vanish before the aliens could respond in force. Hours later, the same Crack ship would be hit again from a different direction by a completely different human squadron. Supreme Huntmaster Zargul watched with growing rage as his great armada was picked apart by an enemy that refused to stand and fight. They are cowards, snarled one of his lieutenants. They flee rather than face us in honorable combat. No, Zargul replied, his voice deep and cold. This is a strategy. They know they cannot match our strength, so they force us to chase them. He slammed a clawed fist against the living console. Find their pattern. They must rest some time. But there was no pattern to find. Admiral Nelson had implemented a rotation system even more complex than Operation Sunrise. Human ships would strike, retreat to hidden bases to rest and refuel, while others took their place. The Cracks found themselves in a state of constant alert across an entire star system, with no way to predict where the next attack would come. Days stretched into weeks. The mighty Cracks, used to swift and decisive victories, found themselves frustrated by an enemy that seemed to need no rest, no respite. Lower-ranked Cracks warriors began to challenge their superiors, a sign of the fracturing discipline. The hunters, who had never known the feeling of being hunted, grew increasingly erratic in their responses. Zargul, watching his great fleet slowly come apart, made a fateful decision. He ordered all forces to converge on Earth itself. If the humans would not stand and fight, he would threaten their homeworld directly. This is what we've been waiting for, Admiral Nelson told his commanders when the Cracks began to move. They're gathering in one place exactly as we predicted. From her special operations vessel, Commander Susan Hayes led the most important mission of the war. While the Cracks concentrated on Earth, her small ship slipped through their lines, heading for Zargul's massive command vessel. Remember, she told her team, we have one shot at this. The bioweapon must reach the central nervous system of the ship. Their vessel was tiny compared to the massive Cracks flagship, like a mosquito approaching an elephant. Using stealth technology developed from studying Crack sensor capabilities, they attached to the living hull undetected. Inside, the ship was eerily quiet. Most of the Cracks were focused on the coming battle for Earth. Susan's team moved through the organic corridors, following the path they had practiced countless times in simulations. "We're approaching the central chamber," reported Linda Reyes, who had survived the first mission with Susan months ago. The chamber housed what Dr. White had called the brain of the ship, a massive organic computer that controlled all functions. Connected to it were the symbiotic organisms that regulated the vessel's systems. As they prepared the bioweapon, alarms suddenly blared through the ship. They had been detected. "Keep working," Susan ordered as half her team took defensive positions. "We finished the mission no matter what." Crack's warriors poured into the chamber, but the humans were ready. Using the tactics they had perfected over months of fighting, they worked in perfect rotation. 2 would fight while 2 rested, then switch, never allowing themselves to tire. The Cracks, expecting to overwhelm the small team quickly, found themselves in a prolonged battle they were not evolved to fight. As minutes stretched on, their movements slowed, their attacks became less coordinated. Meanwhile, Linda completed the final connections for the bioweapon. "It's ready," she called. "Activating. Now." A clear liquid began to pump into the ship's organic systems. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The walls around them shuddered as the symbiotic organisms controlling the ship's functions began to die. Lights flickered, and the Cracks warriors looked around in confusion as their living vessel began to fail. "Fall back to the extraction point," Susan ordered. Not all of them made it out. Susan watched 3 of her team fall to Crack's claws, but the mission was accomplished. As their small vessel detached from the dying flagship, they saw the effects spreading throughout the massive ship. Systems failed, weapons went dark, and communication ceased. Aboard his dying vessel, Supreme Huntmaster Zargul received an unexpected message. It was from President Wright requesting direct communication. When their faces appeared on opposite screens, the human leader looked tiny compared to the massive reptilian predator. Yet there was no fear in her eyes. "Your ship is dying," she said simply, "and your fleet is scattered. We offer you one chance. Withdraw from human space permanently and release all harvested species from Crack's control." Zargul hissed in rage. "You would dictate terms to the Cracks? We have conquered galaxies." "And yet here you are," Wright replied calmly, "on a dead ship, facing a species you thought would be easy prey." For the first time in his long life, the Supreme Huntmaster felt something new: uncertainty. These humans fought unlike any species the Cracks had encountered. They did not rely on strength or advanced technology, but on strategies the Cracks had never faced. "What are you?" he asked finally. "We are persistence hunters," Wright answered. "On our world, we did not evolve to be the strongest. We evolved to never give up." The withdrawal of the Cracks fleet marked the beginning of a new era for humanity. As the alien ships departed Earth's solar system, humans emerged from the war, transformed. They had faced the galaxy's greatest predators and proven themselves more dangerous than any creature with claws or fangs. In the years that followed, Earth established contact with other species previously terrorized by the Cracks. Kelnar became Earth's first non-human citizen and ambassador to a growing alliance of free worlds. The story of human endurance spread throughout the galaxy. Other, predatory species gave Earth wide berth, and the term human persistence entered the language of multiple civilizations. On distant worlds, young Cracks learned about the galaxy in their education chambers. When they reached the section on humanity, their instructor displayed an image of Earth and issued the first warning in Cracks history. This species does not know how to surrender. They do not fight like predators or prey. They fight like something else entirely, something that wears down the strongest foe through sheer will. Do not engage unless you are prepared for a hunt without end.